In 1841, John Bidwell heard of a land where it was always springtime, where the soil was fertile, oranges could be picked from the trees, and herds of cattle and horses roamed the hills. He was soon inspired to make the journey west with the company of 2 oxen, a mule, and 1 other man. His journey was from the east, starting in Missouri, and passing through Fort Laramie, the Rockies through the South Pass, and eventually coming to the splitting of the California and the Oregon Trail. They went through the Sierra Nevada mountains and finally reached Sacramento after 6 months of travel. On his journey, Bidwell was a force behind the first American immigrant part to enter California from the east. His journal was so well recorded it was published and used as a guide for travelers to come. He settled at Sutter's Fort, in which he was present when gold was discovered at Sutter's Mill in 1848. By finding the Feather River, Bidwell was able to use gold to become rich. He eventually would go on to becoming a leader of the state of California and serve on the U.S. Congress from 1864 to 1867. Pio de Jesus Pico IV was born on May 5, 1801. He was part of the Mexican government from 1828 to 1848, when California became part of the United States. His involvement led him to becoming governor in 1832 to 1846 when the Americans took over. He built Pico House, Los Angeles' finest hotel at the time. He purchased the Rancho Paso de Bartolo Viejo and named the site El Ranchito. Southern California became greatly impacted by the gold rush, and tens of thousands of immigrants needed to be fed, and the price of cattle quickly rose. Cattle from Pio Pico's ranch was herded north, and his fortress soared for a time. Soon the rush began to die down with bad weather. Bad luck and weather and unethical conditions of other businessmen who wanted to take his assets left Pico with no more than his home, El Ranchito. Pico never learned how to speak English, and it was very hard for him to communicate with others that could. As a result, he fell prey to those who wanted his money. The Beckwourth Trail was one of the significant trails that crossed the Sierra. It had the lowest elevation crossing of the mountains. It parted from the Tucky Trail in present-day Sparks, Nevada, and headed west to Marysville, California. The trail was opened by James Beckwourth. Beckwourth was born in 1798, the son of a black slave woman and her white owner. He was freed by his father. He went to California during the gold rush, and while exploring the country in Northern California, he convinced the townspeople of Marysville, California, that he could construct a wagon road that would allow immigrants to travel to their town. Beckwourth never collected the money he was owed from the townspeople of Marysville. He then turned to ranching along his wagon road in today's Sierra Valley. He spent several years there in the 1850s and later moved back to Missouri and then to Denver. In 1866, he became ill and passed away in October of that year and was placed in an unmarked grave. John C. Fremont was born on January 21, 1813, in Savannah, Georgia. He was one of the 4 generals appointed during the Civil War by President Lincoln. He was known as the greatest pathfinder. General Fremont began his western explorations in 1842. He went to Colorado first, but it had little value. In his travels in 1844, he came into Colorado through North Park and South Park and then down the Arkansas River. He saw very few white people, and those he saw were traders, trappers, and trading post employees. In 1848 and 1849, Fremont searched for a pass for a railroad line that would go from the upper Rio Grande to California. During the California Gold Rush, Fremont became a millionaire when gold was discovered on his land. In 1850, Fremont was elected as Senator of California and later ran for president, but lost to James Buchanan. After serving in the Civil War under President Lincoln, Fremont tried his hand in railroad financing and building, but failed, and lost the great fortune he had earned in the gold rush. He became governor of Arizona Territory from 1873 to 1883. He later returned to New York, where he died in New York City on July 13, 1890.